Good morning, friends. Let's continue with the lectures of the excretory system, that is, the renal physiology. So, in my previous lecture and the first lecture of this renal physiology, I have taught you about the basic anatomy of the kidney, including the nephron and the juxtaglomerular apparatus. The topic for the today's lecture is renal circulation, that is, the renal blood flow or the blood supply to the kidney. Now you know that each and every organ in our body has a blood supply, that is basically to meet the nutritional demand. Similarly, the kidney also have a high blood flow. Okay. But here, as far as the blood flow to the kidney is concerned, okay, it is not only to meet the nutritional demand, but the most important significance of this blood flow, high blood flow, basically, it is to have a removal of the metabolic waste product through the glomerular filtration. Now you know the basic function of this kidney is to filter the plasma and to remove the metabolic waste product. Okay, so that is another significance of a high blood flow to the kidney. Now just look at this picture and the flow chart that is showing the blood flow to the kidney. Now you can look at here, this is the kidney, the basic, just I am revising. Okay, this is the outer portion, that is the cortex, and this is the inner medulla. And here the medial concave portion, that is known as the renal hilum, okay, through which the ureter and the renal vein, they are leaving the kidney, while the renal artery, it is entering the kidney. So now the major blood vessel that is supplying the blood to the kidney, it is via the renal artery. Okay, so that renal artery, it will divide into the multiple branches that are known as interlobar arteries, that will divide into arcuate arteries, that will divide into interlobular arteries, that will ultimately divide into efferent arterioles, that we have you have been taught during the nephron structure of the nephron, that will continue as the glomerular capillary, and that capillary will combine to form a efferent arterioles. Okay, so just look at here. So this is the major artery that is entering the kidney, that is a renal artery, that will divide into the segmental artery, and that will divide into the interlobar arteries, that means arteries in between the various lobes. Okay, now that interlobar artery, it will arch. Okay, so they will angle, here you can see this angle. So there, these branches are known as the arcuate arteries. Okay. Now these arcuate arteries, it will give a multiple fine branches that are known as interlobular arteries. Okay, and that interlobular arteries, ultimately it will continue as the efferent arterioles. That efferent arterioles will enter the glomerular capsule to form a glomerular network, through which they will exit as a efferent arterioles. So now look at here, the efferent arteriole, it will continue as a peritubular capillary or as a vasa recta. That means if the glomerulus are present in the cortex, cortical nephron, then the efferent artery will divide to form a peritubular capillary network. If these are a juxtamedullary portion, then this efferent artery will divide to form a vasa recta, that is a loop. Okay. Then they will continue as a vein, stellate vein, interlobular vein, arcuate vein, interlobar vein, and ultimately the renal vein that will leave the kidney. So here the branches of the veins are almost running parallel to that of the arteries. Now this is a summary of this flow chart showing the blood flow. Okay, starting from the renal artery that will divide ultimately to form a efferent arterioles that will form the glomerulus. Okay, that is the primary portion of the nephron that will continuous efferent arteriole that will either divide into the peritubular capillary or into the vasa recta. So this part, it is present within the nephron. Okay, and then they will continue as a vein and they will leave the kidney. So now this picture shows the peritubular capillary and the vasa recta. So you can see this is the arcuate artery that will divide into the interlobular artery. Then here is the efferent arteriole that will enter the Bowman's capsule here, that is the glomerular capsule. Okay, where they are making the tuft of a glomerular network, and then that capillary will exit as a efferent arteriole, and that efferent arteriole either it will continue as the peritubular capillary. Here you can see this is the peritubular capillary network around the cortical nephron. This is the cortical nephron. Okay, and similarly here, this is the efferent arteriole and these are the efferent arteriole. In between here is the glomerulus. So here the efferent arteriole, it will continue as the vasa recta. You can look at it, this is vasa recta. Okay, so that is the capillary network around the juxtamedullary nephron. So here this vasa recta, basically it is looking like a loop. Okay, so both this vasa recta and peritubular capillary are having their own significance. So now coming to the characteristic of the renal blood flow. Okay. So kidney is receiving a high amount of the blood flow. Okay, so can look at this. The rate of the blood flow to the kidney is around 1200 ml per minute. Okay. And as far as the per unit gram of the tissue, if you see, then it is much higher than many of the other tissues. So it is around 400 ml per 100 gram tissue per minute. Okay. So though the kidney weight is concerned, the kidney weighs around 0.5% of the total body weight, but they are receiving around 20% of the resting cardiac output. That means the kidney are receiving a large amount of the blood flow in relation to the many other organs. Okay. So this higher renal blood flow related to its excretory function rather than its metabolic requirement. That means the other tissues that are receiving the blood flow, that will depend on their nutritional demand, their metabolic requirement. But here in the kidney, large amount of this blood flow is not to meet the demand of the kidney, but it is basically related to the excretory function, because the main function of this kidney is to filter the plasma and to remove the metabolic waste product. Okay, so the high renal blood flow is basically to its excretory function rather than its metabolic requirement. Now the basic importance of the renal blood flow. Okay, so first thing is, as far as all the tissues are concerned, similarly the kidney is also receiving the blood flow to receive the oxygen, nutrition and the hormones that will control their function. Okay. But in addition to this nutritional demand, the blood flow to the kidney is also important to deliver the metabolites and the waste product, okay, to the kidney for its excretion in the urine. Then this blood flow is also important to control the concentration and the dilution of the urine. It also influences the solute and the watery absorption from the kidney, and it also determines the GFR, that is glomerular filtration rate. So now the kidney is receiving high blood flow, and depending on the need, this blood flow will be maintained. Okay, so that we have to discuss under this topic, that is the regulation of the renal blood flow. Okay, so the blood flow or blood supply to the kidney is regulated via basic three mechanisms. Okay, one is the autoregulation, that is kidney itself regulate its blood flow. Second is the hormonal regulation, and third one is the neuronal regulation. So we will discuss this one by one briefly. So before going to the regulation, just look at this picture. Okay, that is showing the relationship between the changes in the resistance of the efferent and the efferent arterioles, and that will ultimately decide the renal blood flow and the glomerular filtration rate. Okay, so look at this picture. Suppose this is the glomerulus, okay, initial portion of the nephron, where the efferent arterioles are entering and the efferent arterioles are leaving. Okay, now suppose this is the efferent arteriole just before the glomerulus. Suppose there is a constriction of the efferent arteriole. That means there is a decrease in the diameter of efferent arteriole. Then it will decrease the blood flow to the kidney, to the glomerulus. Okay, so this will decrease both the blood flow as well as the GFR. Okay, now second picture is showing this. Suppose there is a dilatation of this efferent arterioles. Okay, so that will increase the blood flow, and similarly it will also increase the GFR. Now look at this third picture. Here the efferent arterioles are normal, but the efferent arterioles, there is a constriction, there is a decrease in the diameter. So that will increase the GFR by increasing the hydrostatic pressure, but it will decrease the renal blood flow, because the blood flow from here to here, it will decrease because of this constriction. Okay, then fourth picture, that is showing the efferent arterioles being normal in the diameter, but efferent arterioles are dilated. There is the vasodilatation of the efferent arterioles. So where it will decrease the GFR because of decrease in the hydrostatic pressure here, and it will increase the renal blood flow. That means it will increase the blood flow to the peritubular capillary and the vasa recta. Okay, so these are the just basic determinants that will helpful during study of the renal regulation. So now first is the auto-regulation. That means kidney itself, they are maintaining their blood flow. Okay. So the blood flow to the kidney is maintained at a relative constant level despite a change in the systemic pressure between 80 to 180 millimeter of the mercury. That means if the blood pressure is ranging within this limit, arterial blood pressure, then kidney can maintain their blood flow at a required rate, and this is known as auto-regulation. But beyond this range, that means if the blood pressure is below 80 or it is beyond 180 millimeter mercury, then kidney will not able to maintain that blood flow by their own. Okay. Now again, there are two mechanisms by which the kidney can maintain their blood flow. Okay, one is the myogenic mechanism and second is the tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism. So myo means the muscle that you know. So myogenic mechanism, so that will depend on the strength of the vascular musculature, smooth muscle. So now just see the step here. Suppose there is increased blood pressure, increase in the blood pressure, then it will increase the stretch over the vessel wall. Okay, that means there will be a stretching of the vessel wall, so that will cause opening of the calcium channel, resulting in the rapid depolarization. Because influx of the calcium, it will cause rapid depolarization, so that will cause a vasoconstriction. Now you have studied this mechanism in the mechanism of the muscle contraction. Okay, influx of the calcium in the cardiac muscle cell, it will cause its contraction. So this increased pressure, ultimately it will lead to the vasoconstriction. That means because of increased pressure, if there is increased blood flow, but by this vasoconstriction, the increased blood flow will come to the normal. Coming to the second part of the autoregulation of a renal blood flow and the GFR, where the mechanism is tubuloglomerular feedback mechanism. So as the name suggests, tubuloglomerular. So whenever there is a change in the tubular fluid concentration, it will be sensed by the certain epithelial cells of the renal tubules. And via the feedback through the glomerulus, it will help to maintain the renal blood flow and the GFR. So this flowchart will help to understand this mechanism. Now let us suppose there is a decrease in the mean arterial pressure. So that will decrease the renal arterial pressure too. So that will ultimately lead to the decreased renal blood flow and also the decrease the GFR. Okay. Now as the GFR will decrease, there will be decrease in the sodium chloride concentration in the tubular fluid. And out of this sodium chloride, maximum will be reabsorbed in the proximal tubules. Now by the time this tubular fluid will reach to the distal convoluted tubules, that means at the juxtaglomerular apparatus, okay, where you know in the early part of the distal tubules, that means as the juxtaglomerular apparatus, this epithelial cell of this distal tubules, they are modified and they are known as the macula densa cell. So now decrease in the sodium chloride concentration, where it will reach to this region, it will be sensed by this macula densa cell. Okay. And via this macula densa cell, there are two feedback effect that will help to restore both this. Okay. One is this sensor, it will increase the release of the certain vasodilators that will basically cause the dilatation of the efferent arterioles. And you know the dilatation of the efferent arterioles, it will lead to increase in the GFR as well as the renal blood flow. Okay. So one mechanism that is restoring this GFR and renal blood flow, it is the dilatation of the efferent arterioles. Okay. Second is that you know whenever the macula densa cell will sense this decreased sodium chloride concentration, it will give a feedback to the juxtaglomerular cells in this juxtaglomerular apparatus, that will cause release of the renin, and that renin, it will cause the formation of the angiotensin 2. Okay. And this angiotensin 2, it is basically vasoconstrictor, but initially in the low dose, it will only cause the constriction of the efferent arterioles. Okay. While it will cause the dilatation of the efferent arterioles, so it will increase the renal blood flow and the GFR, but later on by severely constriction of the efferent arterioles, it may decrease the renal blood flow. Okay. And second is, let us suppose there is increase in the mean arterial pressure. So the opposite things will be seen. Increased mean arterial pressure, it will cause increase in the renal blood flow as well as the GFR. Okay. That will increase the sodium chloride concentration in the tubular fluid, that will be sensed by the macula densa cell. So increased sodium chloride concentration by the macula densa cell sensor, it will cause the release of the vasoconstrictor rather. Okay. And that are basically causing the constriction of the efferent arterioles mainly. Okay. And the constriction of the efferent arteriole, you know, it will lead to decrease in the renal blood flow as well as the GFR. So clear? So this is the mechanism that are operating to maintain the renal blood flow basically, and also simultaneously GFR. And these are the autoregulatory mechanisms. Then coming to the hormonal regulation of renal blood flow as well as the GFR. So there are various hormones that will regulate the renal blood flow as well as the GFR. So the hormones can be divided broadly into two parts. One are the vasoconstrictor and second are the vasodilators. So this vasoconstrictor, it may lead to the vasoconstriction of efferent arterioles or both. Okay. And vasoconstrictor substance mainly they will lead to decrease in the renal blood flow and the GFR. So as for example, norepinephrine, it will cause the vasoconstriction of both afferent as well as the efferent, so by which it will decrease the renal blood flow as well as the GFR. Okay. Angiotensin 2, it is also vasoconstrictor, but predominantly initially it will cause the vasoconstriction of the efferent arterioles. So by vasoconstriction of the efferent arterioles, it will decrease the renal blood flow. But on the GFR, the effect may be dual. Initially, in the low concentration angiotensin 2, it is only having a predominant effect over the efferent arterioles, but less effect over the afferent arterioles. Okay, so in a low concentration afferent arterioles, rather it will dilate, so that will lead to increase in the GFR. But in the higher concentration, this angiotensin 2, it will decrease GFR by two mechanisms. One is it will also lead to vasoconstriction of the afferent arterioles, and second, by a contraction of the mesangial cells, it will also decrease the GFR. Then the endothelin, again it is a vasoconstrictor causing decrease the renal blood flow as well as the GFR. And here are the important vasodilators that will increase the renal blood flow as well as the GFR. Okay. So all these they are concerned with the increased renal blood flow because they are a potent vasodilator of afferent as well as the efferent arterioles. But certain vasodilators are not having a confirmed effect over the GFR, like the prostaglandin, then dopamine, histamine. There is no known role regarding the effect on a GFR. So these are the important hormones that will control the renal blood flow and also the GFR. Then final regulation, it is via nervous mechanism. Okay. And mainly the importance here, it is the sympathetic nervous system. Okay. So any factor that is causing a stimulation of the sympathetic fibers to the kidney, okay, and the effect of sympathetic nervous system, it is a vasoconstriction. And you know the vasoconstriction, it will decrease the renal blood flow. Okay, so the stimulation of a renal sympathetic fiber, it will cause a vasoconstriction and it will decrease the renal blood flow. Okay. So the mechanism here is the sympathetic stimulation that will increase the renin release. Renin will cause activation of the renin angiotensin system, and they will form the angiotensin 2. And you know the angiotensin 2, it is having a vasoconstriction effect. Okay, so in this way, by doing vasoconstriction, the sympathetic stimulation, it will decrease the renal blood flow. As this effect, it is seen whenever you are doing the exercise. Okay, so at the time of the severe physical exercise or any stress, the vital organs will require the high blood flow. Okay, like a heart basically. Okay, so here the blood flow will be diverted from the kidney to the heart. Okay, so in this way the sympathetic system will decrease the renal blood flow to the kidney. Okay? And with this system, this local prostaglandins are also secreted. Okay, so this local prostaglandins like prostaglandin E2 and I2, they are having an opposite effect. They are doing a vasodilatation. Okay, so with the exercise, as I will give an example, with the exercise there is sympathetic stimulation that will decrease the renal blood flow, but with that, during that, there is also release of the local prostaglandins that will do the vasodilatation. Okay, so that will maintain the blood flow. Okay, so except the extreme stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, okay, the vasoconstriction will be nullified by the vasodilation. But if there is an extreme stimulation of the sympathetic system, then it will ultimately decrease the renal blood flow only. So this is just a flow chart showing the effect of the blood flow to the kidney. If there is a decreased blood flow, okay, then via this regulatory mechanism, the blood flow will be normalized, the blood pressure will be normalized by these various mechanisms. Okay. So this is all about the renal blood flow and its regulation. Thank you.